Hello and welcome to this special Speaker Story Bank production where we're going to be focusing on the speaker in residence. And in this particular series for the next 6 weeks, it will be the speaker in residence on trust. And I cannot think of a better speaker to position us in this space than Lieutenant Colonel Jason O'Harris. Jason has been in the Air Force for over 20 years and has flown thousands of missions. He is truly a leader who has seen what trust in his team, what trust from his team can do to create change and action points. And that is something that we will be discussing over the next 6 weeks. What is part of his program? Because he is a speaker who could come in as a speaker in residence to take that keynote where he inspires you from the stage and deliver deep, sustainable content that will make true impact and change happen in your organization. Whether you are a meeting planner or someone that's bringing in a speaker for an event to create an opportunity within your organization, or you're an agent, please join us for the next 6 weeks as Jason, and you will see now as we begin this conversation how he could make true impact in your organization. Jason, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mirzana. It's a really honor and a pleasure to be here chatting with you and just talking through what we've been talking about for so long, this whole speaker in residence program.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when we started speaking about this last fall, you really were the first speaker that I thought, man, you could really model this for people. You were already doing it. And where I want to begin for anyone listening is really to say that the speaker in residence idea is it's not consulting. It's building that impact right from the start. It's creating that value immediately. Can you share a little bit about how you see that unfolding and how you've already seen it unfold with some of your clients?
Yeah, the reality, Mirjana, is that oftentimes I explain to clients and potential clients that the keynote, that's really just the entree. That is the entry point, because in that 15, 30, 45, 60-minute keynote, we can only give so much information. And it's really just opening that door and whetting the appetite of the audience for wanting more. And so once I come in and give that keynote, I typically have clients, they ask me about what can we do to continue to drive this message home? What can we do to add more impact to the message? And what can we do to create transformation after the keynote? And so the idea of the speaker in residence, it's this idea that we go beyond the keynote. It's going beyond the keynote in a way that we can actually create transformational change through virtual conversations, through fireside chats, and we can curate this program in any kind of way that the client needs and desires so that they can get transformational change within their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I love about your program and, trust, right? I'm just going to read these 3 things. It's like, if your team trust in their own ability to do the job well, trust in the importance of their role, trust in their team to work together, and trust in their leaders to empower, guide, and trust them in return. I mean, trust is so built into the very fiber of the work that you have done in the Air Force. And even from conversations we've had of you just living life, there are threads of all of it. Can you share sort of the passion that you have for this based on, again, true experience, living it, breathing it, teaching it, owning it?
Yeah, the foundation of trust is so critical in the business of flying airplanes, in the business of being in the military. But what I've learned is that, of course, trust is important and imperative in all aspects of our lives. And a lot of times what happens is people, they show up and they say, just trust me. And the reality is that we don't get to trust instantaneously. Getting to trust takes it takes a conversation. It takes connecting with people. Then that drives us from that initial connection, the conversations, to a level of commitment. That then drives us towards accountability that then leads to trust. And what I've learned is that from my personal relationships with my spouse, with my daughter, with the people that I work with the organizations that I've been in, with high performance teams in the military, these fundamentals of trust are absolutely critical and essential. And so when you begin to think about it, not just in the workplace, but in all facets of life, it changes your perspective on how we view trust. And there's data and stats that show what an organization can be and what an organization that is a high trust organization, what it looks like, and the positive impact on the organization and the positive impact on the individuals in that organization. So trust is a very critical piece to having those high performance teams and having a high trust organization, of course.
What have you seen in your work where organizations, why is it so difficult for them sort of to build the trust factor in?
It's not that people don't want to build in trust. I think sometimes we just don't understand how to do it. Sometimes we don't understand the simplicity of creating these moments. An organization is built up of multiple individuals that creates this organization. And sometimes we find it challenging on how do we communicate with each other. Sometimes we find it challenging because the organizational culture is not one that's built on psychological safety, which is foundational to creating trust. And sometimes we find that in organizations, people are still stuck in a mindset of being a boss. Do as I say, not as I do, just shut up and color. And they're creating this compliance environment. And that compliance environment really does not breed trust. It doesn't breed psychological safety, and it doesn't create this environment that welcomes us to connect, that welcomes us to create commitment and accountability that then leads to trust. It's not until we begin to actually peel back the layers and understand that to create this environment, we need to create psychological safety. We need to create a commitment environment. We need to create this space where people feel comfortable, not being coddled, but being held accountable. And we hold each other accountable. And that's where we start getting into this idea of really creating trust within an organization.
So, Jason, I'd love to talk about what we're going to be doing for the next 6 weeks, because you have the cargo program. And there are a lot of great elements to that you've already been sharing with a lot of clients, a lot of deep dive work. But for anyone that will be joining us in these next few weeks here, we want to make sure that we give them that value as well, that they're going to learn some lessons for their own industry. And we'll probably share some stories from the speaking industry, in terms of where trust can be elevated even for our industry. So can you share a little bit about what we'll be learning in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so thank you so much. The cargo program, it's all about elevating your leadership skills as an individual, as well as elevating those leadership skills as a team member and a person who's leading a team of individuals. And cargo, it's about your people. They are your most precious cargo. And what can you do to take care of your people as well as yourself? And so that acronym cargo, C, is for creativity. How do you create the space for creativity? A lot of times in organizations, we're looking for innovation, and we don't get innovation until we open up that space and opportunity for creativity. But then also on the individual side, with regards to creativity, what we find is oftentimes we're grinding so much. We're always so much in the grind that we forget to slow down and take time and actually carve out time on our calendars for creativity. That becomes very important. And then the A is access to the tools and resources. Oftentimes people, they kind of back up and they're like, wait a minute, you're going to cost me more money. No, sometimes there are tools and resources that are right in front of us that we just aren't aware of. Recently, one of my clients in the construction industry, and we brought a small group together as we were going through the cargo training virtually. And what we learned was that one person had a question, asked someone in another part of the organization, and they realized that this whole wealth of resources and tools were available that they just were not aware of. So it becomes important to understand what tools and resources people need, and then how do we provide them access. And then the R is roles and responsibilities. Sometimes we need to make certain that we right size the roles. Sometimes we need to add responsibility, and sometimes we need to take responsibility away. And that becomes important as a leader. How do we figure out what the appropriate role or responsibility beyond the job description so that we can properly position people for success? And then the G, goals and opportunities. At the end of the day, we have to figure out how do we understand and appreciate what the goals are for our people on our teams. And then how do we share with them what our goals are for them, the goals and the outcomes, and then allow them to share them with us. And when we do that, we now are working together towards the common objective, towards the common goals that are beneficial for everyone involved. And then the O is opportunities to succeed, opportunities to celebrate those small wins and successes along the way. Oftentimes we've heard it said, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? How do you climb a mountain one rock at a time? But as we're eating that elephant, as we're climbing that mountain, We have to find those moments to celebrate the small wins along the way. We have to find those moments to celebrate those wins that we get, because that allows us to continue to push, to give us energy to keep going along the path. And when we put all that together, we create this space to create the right cargo so that we could take care of our people and take care of ourselves on this journey of life and leadership.
Hello there, my friend. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jason Harris. For you all, what's getting in the way of success? In this course, we're going to examine the cargo that you need to be equipped with as a leader and team member within your organization. I want to welcome you to this mission. As you can see, there are many ways that we can create both the opportunity and the space for creativity to address challenges within our organizations. What kind of difference could you make, or could that make, to your own productivity at your job to get the access to what you need? Are you allowing and empowering your team members to take on the roles and responsibilities that you have defined for them? And using clear objectives and defined goals are strategies you can use to increase the success of your company or advance your career. So what this means is that in organizations, we need to make sure that we've given people the opportunity to succeed. And you are now part of my crew preparing for this mission to ensure that we get the right cargo to our people.
I really love that so much. And as you were going through that list, I just, again, we can apply it at home with our families. I was just looking at all those pieces. I'm like, wow, this could really work well for my 16-year-old right now, right? And this is what I love about your work, Jason, right? It's just so values driven, right? There is real value and character built into all of this work that you do. And that is something that I'm so excited by, in terms of whenever I talk about you or here in this program that people are going to be able to see with you, it's really going to carry that through. So I'm really excited about that. I think is there anything else on your side that you'd like to cover at this point? Or I think we're going to bring in our dear colleague, Danielle Sweeney. But what do you think, Jason?
No, I think this is great. I'd love to hear Danielle's perspective. I mean, she's obviously a juggernaut in the industry, and she has a lot of wisdom to offer. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say.
Yeah, and Danielle Sweeney is the marketing director of the Sweeney Agency. And as I always say, I'm just so excited to have her join us, because she is someone that has her pulse on marketing and ideas and ways of talking about speakers and connecting the dots, that is just so creative and so curated. And that's a word we're going to be using a lot more of together as well. This is all about that curation. So welcome, my friend Danielle. It's so good to see you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. After that introduction, I don't know. I think I just need to drop out now so I don't ruin it.
You know what I love? Listen, you came into the marketplace, into the speaking industry about 3 years ago, 4 years ago now?
Coming on 4 years, actually coming on 5 years.
Oh,
I don't know where time goes.
But,
Yeah,
and again, part of this whole piece of conversation together is to share these little bits, right? And you came in with fresh perspective from a completely different industry. And that's what we talk about. Creativity and innovation comes when you can look at things through a different lens. And you have truly applied that in a way that has elevated speakers, their content. I think you've had more clients, even just by the way you're posting on LinkedIn and all of that. So, when you started thinking about ways to approach the Speaker in Residence program, how did that sit with you?
Marjana, when we first started talking about it, and, Jason came into the conversation early on as well, for me, and having seen speakers and having been part of these events where you leave and you feel so fulfilled, it's almost like going on vacation. You have this amazing week, and then 3 days later, you're like, what just happened? And I think that's where the Speaker in Residence idea really, really caught my interest, because we see clients come to us and they have these incredible goals. They have these desires for I mean, a lot of them right now for transformation, for cultural change, for building teamwork, for creating trust. None of these things happen overnight. And I think when we look at the keynote, it is so inspiring. People learn so much. I mean, I take, notes on all sorts of things. And then we get back to where we're going. We go back to do the same old thing because that's what we're accustomed to do. So when we talk about this idea of a commitment culture, I can't think of a better way to do that and a better way to support our teams than to have continued support and with a fresh perspective. And I think that's what a great keynote speaker, an expert in their subject matter, can really do for our clients. And that to me is so interesting. That allows us to continue to be partners to our clients. It's not a transaction. It's not a selling them a keynote speaker and off we go to the next thing. We're really, really invested. The way that we see it at the Sweeney Agency is that if we do a good job for our clients and we find them someone who can help them achieve the goals that they're looking for, then we are hitting the mark and they're coming back to us again and again. And I think in this case, and we've seen it work, we've had clients come back to us time and time again to have someone to help them continue the transformation that they're after. So it's just such an exciting opportunity.
Yeah. And, how is it? It's different, right, from consulting. I think that's the biggest thing we
Totally.
also want everyone to know. It's a different piece than building and consulting. How did you see that immediately as a difference?
I think when we think about consulting, or when I think about consulting, it's that we're looking at a very small group of team members, often a leadership team, and they're getting all of this insight, and then it's trickling down through the organization. When we look at, Jason brought this up really well in his for Cargo, is unlocking resources within an organization. So there are so many organizations who've gone through massive change in the last few years, and they have new team members, they have created organizational restructures, they have people with new skills and new ideas. So if we're looking at having an impact on the whole organization, we need to bring the whole organization in. And that is where I think a speaker in residence idea differs quite significantly from consulting. You're not dealing with one small team. You're actually continuing the conversation, continuing to build the transformation, whatever it is, with the whole group. So these messages that if we take one message from a keynote speaker's event, maybe 2 or 3, if we're, really, really impacted by it, imagine if that then continued 3 weeks later and you get the other 3 messages, or you're actually able to take action on those things and do it as a collective. So people are changing the conversation within the organization, not just at those smaller levels.
Danielle, how do you see trust in the work that you do at the Sweeney Agency?
Look, we have to see it from the perspective of looking and working with our clients and developing long-term relationships. If they don't trust us to bring them the best speakers for their events, we don't have a business. So when we're talking to them about things like this, about a speaker in residence, they know they can come to us, and we're not just putting someone forward for the sake of putting someone forward. We're saying, well, here's this particular speaker who we know can deliver this content that you're after. We know can work with you. We know is going to customize their approach in order to really achieve the goals. And this is so important to us. What are the goals they've set out to achieve? And then they can trust us to deliver the best speaker for that. And that is number one on our values list. That is our mission, is to create trusting relationships with our clients. And that, goes without saying, when we're working with other bureaus, when we're working with our speakers, when we're working with you, Mirjana, trust is number one for all of us. So it is essential and integral to our companies.
Yeah. And I think, again, we keep driving that point of trust. If we trust one another, we can curate together, right? We can really think about what are the challenges we're solving for? What are the best solutions? And that's something about bringing all of us together to be able to curate for those answers. Jason, I'd love to know from your perspective in the speaking side, what do you see from the speaking industry? Where have you seen trust, fall or grow? What are you thinking about it?
In the speaking industry, especially as it pertains to the speaker bureau partnerships, I think to what Danielle was saying, the trust between us and the client is vital. At the end of the day, the bureau partner and myself as a speaker, we have an obligation to that client. Our mission is to take care of the client no matter what. That bureau agent has to be able to trust that I, the speaker, can be trusted to deliver. And then that client, they're trusting that bureau agent to bring a speaker that is going to deliver. So that you can see there's a lot of trust that has to happen. And then on the speaker side, for me, I look at my relationships and my partnerships with bureau agents and bureaus as a whole, that's very much a trusting relationship. If I don't have the ability to trust them and they don't have the ability to trust me, then we're never going to have the opportunity to work together. And so this becomes really, really important for us to understand what that relationship is built upon. You know, what I've seen is a lot of young speakers, they come into the business and they think that, oh, I'm just going to go and get on a bureau's website and I'm magically going to become this amazing speaker and I'm going to be pitched to everybody. But they haven't spent time building a relationship. They haven't spent time having a conversation with the agents and understanding what they need, understanding how they service their client. And that relationship is important. You know, I've done work with the Sweeney Agency, and it's been amazing because not only have we had conversation, not only have we gotten to know each other, but we've gotten to trust each other. We've gotten to trust each other to be able to deliver before, during, and after the event, to the tune of even the Sweeney Agency recent event. You know, after the event, there was a testimonial from the client, and they immediately put on their LinkedIn page this testimonial showcasing what we were able to deliver for that client. That takes a lot of trust. And so it's important that people understand that this is a relationship that then leads to a level of trust between everyone involved in this transaction, as well as the transformation that's potential with a client and their people.
Yeah, that sounds great. And, you know, Danielle, you know, in terms of the speaker in residence, how do you look for speakers for that? You know, do you already know the ones that you think you would select for different pieces of it? We certainly know Jason on trust is, you know, a preeminent voice there. How are you thinking about it long term?
It really depends. We really want to do a deep dive with the client to find out what their goals and objectives are. That is number one. If their goal and objective is just to keep people motivated, we've got great speakers who can continue to do that. But we really want to understand what they're after and how they want to present that. Some speakers are fantastic at off-the-cuff fireside chats, interactive events, and some speakers are not. They're happier to deliver content. So we really work with our clients in order to figure out what they're after. In one particular instance, this company is going through a lot of transformation. They had a lot of new team members, and they really wanted to deliver the message of their values and how to create that understanding of the culture within the new people coming in. I think they'd taken on 4 new companies. And so the speaker that we worked with was able to really deliver that message of how to reintegrate from, you know, some really simple things that we take for granted that maybe are part of the company culture, but haven't been part of the cultures of these other organizations that are coming in under the umbrella. So over the course of 3 months, we had 12 different virtual videos, fireside chats, all interactive, and the client was absolutely thrilled, and it made a huge difference. So when we're looking at the speaker in residence, I mean, we're looking at trust. It doesn't come overnight. So who better than someone like Jason, who has done that on a number of different teams across a number of different places, the military being just one of them, in order to continue to do that. So the speaker does have to have a lot of content, a lot of depth, and a lot of focus, and that requires a lot of trust. So we have to trust them implicitly in order to deliver. And again, we just don't send people out and go, off you go, sort it out. You know, we work really closely with the client. And I think that's the real opportunity here for bureaus, is for the bureaus to develop a deeper understanding of what their client is after and to work with them over time in order to deliver the best content that really hits the mark. And that is an opportunity for us. I mean, if we don't think it is, I think we're kind of closing our eyes to it.
Yeah. And Jason, because you have done the deeper speaker in residence already to some degree, how do you blend, you know, fireside chat with just virtual coaching? How do you sort of, you know, break it out?
You know, I really work with the client to find out what they really need, what they really want. And then we curate a specific program that's tailored to their desires. For example, I have one client and they said, look, we're going to bring you in. We want to bring you in for 3 sessions. I says, fantastic. I says, what do you need? I says, I can give you a keynote. I can give you the cargo course. I can give you the 7 skill sets course, or I can make a combination, or we can have a fireside chat. And what we settled upon was I would deliver an abbreviated keynote. So basically a 15-minute keynote followed by a 30-minute fireside chat for us to get to know each other, find out what some of the issues and challenges are. And then on that next session, we would go in and do the 7 skill sets. And then the last session, we would do a high-level cargo course. And then I'm able to throw in the training program that's online as well. And so again, we really have to have that conversation with the client that we can curate specifically what they need and want, not just throw something at them just because that's already in the mix, if you would.
Yeah. So that's great. So that particular one was 3 or 4 sessions built into it, right? It's that first keynote and then 2 more sessions following. And I think that's important for people to know. It could be a year-long speaker in residence, or it could be something smaller. And again, the idea of the speaker in residence just comes from, you've probably heard of these artists in residence that companies will hire to curate their wall art. So in the speaking industry, we are looking to find unique ways to curate content by speakers who deliver deep. And I think, well, for both of you, Danielle and Jason, here to close together, I'm really grateful that, we started having these conversations last fall, and that, we are here to help model it for the industry and really showcase it. Anything else you want to add to that for the next few weeks coming up? Jason, you?
Thank you so much, Mirzana and Danielle. Having this conversation, I know we've been having this conversation for quite some time, and to be able to really work through the details, just like we would do with our clients, right? We all know that a client doesn't just show up and buy immediately. We have to have the conversation. We have to build that relationship, and we have to curate something that is specific to the need, something that is specific to the desire and the want, and then we're able to actually deliver something that is meaningful. So to work with the two of you all to create something meaningful for this industry, not just for myself, not just for the Sweeney Agency, but for all the different bureau partners that are out there and the various speakers that have the capability of delivering more than just a keynote and delivering something that's transformational to the audience, to the client, that is going to make an impact and potentially change people's lives. That means so much to me to be a part of this with the two of you all. So I'm extremely grateful, and I'm really, really looking forward to the dialogue that comes as a result of these conversations we're going to have.
Absolutely. And Danielle, your side?
Oh, I'm very grateful to be part of this. Again, I'm so invested in this idea from the perspective of what we can do for our clients. But as we know, we're in a small competitive industry. And I think the more trust that we can build, the better we're all going to do, the better we're going to feel. Moving from transactional to transformational, this is our opportunity. And let's dive in here. Jason has what it takes to help us get there. And I'm really excited for this. I'm excited to see what evolves. So thank you so much for letting us be part of it. And I'm excited to continue the conversation with you all.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. And we will be coming back for the next 5 weeks to be bringing more in this series on the speaker in residence on trust with Jason O'Harris. And you will learn a great deal, as well as we unpack the speaking industry a little bit more, but also for any industry you're in. When the foundation is trust, there is no better voice than Jason O'Harris. We look forward to bringing more of him here with you.